We all know that feeling, right? That rush of anger. But what if you could actually change how you relate to it? In this explainer, we're going to dive into how mindfulness can help you work with that anger so you can learn to respond thoughtfully instead of just, well, reacting. Okay, so let's start with what it feels like to be totally hijacked by anger. Because to really get a handle on this powerful emotion, we first have to understand what's going on in our own bodies and minds when it starts to take over. You know that moment, the one where an emotion just grabs the steering wheel and suddenly you're saying or doing things you almost immediately wish you could take back? We've all been there. It's a completely human thing. And that's because anger isn't just some abstract thought. It's a full-body event. I mean, think about it. Your jaw clenches, your chest feels tight, your face gets hot. It shows up as pure physical sensation. And learning to spot these signs early, that's the first step to getting back in control. You know, there's a really cool scientific name for that hijacked feeling. It's called an amygdala hijack. Basically, your brain's alarm system, that's the amygdala, it just goes into overdrive and slams the brakes on your rational thinking. For that moment, you are literally thinking with your emotions. So, what do we usually do when we feel this way? I mean, the most common advice you hear is to just let it all out, right? To just vent. But does that really work? It might feel good for a second, but the research is surprisingly clear on this. Intense physical venting, like screaming or punching a pillow, it doesn't actually get rid of the anger. In fact, it does the exact opposite. It reinforces those aggressive pathways in our brain, basically just training us to get angrier faster. Okay, so if venting isn't the answer, then what is? Well, this is where mindfulness comes in. It offers a completely different and way more effective path forward. At its heart, mindfulness is just the skill of paying attention to right now, on purpose, without judging whatever you find. The goal isn't to stop feeling angry. It's about learning to observe the anger without letting it sweep you away. This creates this incredibly important pause, a little bit of space between what happens and how you respond. And this is the real magic right here. When you practice mindfulness regularly, you're actually strengthening the parts of your brain that help you regulate emotions. You start to catch the anger earlier when it's just a spark instead of a full-on forest fire. And that gives you the power to choose what you do next. So how can you actually apply this stuff when you're feeling that heat rise? Well, there's a really simple, super memorable tool for this. It's a 4-step practice called RAIN. RAIN is just an acronym for 4 steps: recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. It was first introduced by a meditation instructor named Michelle McDonald, and it's been made really popular by the psychologist Tara Brach as a way to practice what she calls radical compassion with ourselves. So the first step is to just recognize what's going on inside. You pause and you mentally label the feeling. It's as simple as saying to yourself, oh, okay, anger is here, or this is frustration. Just naming it helps you see it as a passing state, not you are. The second step, A for allow, is about letting the feeling just be there for a moment. And honestly, this can be the hardest part because our instinct is to fight it or push it away. But allowing it doesn't mean you like it or approve of it. It just means you stop the internal tug of war. You're letting the wave happen without letting it knock you over. Next up, I for investigate. And the key here is to do it with a gentle curiosity. Bring your attention to the physical sensations in your body. Where is this anger actually living? Is it that heat in your face? A tightness in your chest? You're kind of becoming a scientist of your own experience. And once you're connected to those feelings in your body, you can gently ask yourself a slightly deeper question. What's the story I'm telling myself that's fueling this? A lot of times it's a thought like, I'm being disrespected, or this isn't fair. You're not trying to argue with it, just see it. And finally, N for nurture. This is where you actively offer yourself some kindness. What does that angry, hurting part of you really need to hear right now? It could be a simple thought like, wow, this is really hard, or it's okay to feel this way. You can even just place a hand on your heart as a physical act of self-compassion. RAIN is an incredibly powerful tool for the heat of the moment, but you can also build up your resilience to anger over time by training your nervous system to be calmer in general. And there are some really simple ways to do that. You know, the research shows that activities that calm our physical bodies are the most effective for anger. This includes things like a body scan meditation, something called progressive muscle relaxation, where you tense and then release different muscles, or even just focusing on your breath, making your exhale a little longer than your inhale. All of these things send a direct signal to your brain that says, hey, we're safe, you can relax. So this is the really crucial point. The goal of all these practices is not to get rid of anger. Anger can be a really useful, important emotion. The real goal is to change your relationship with it. With practice, anger stops being this automatic, destructive thing that takes control. Instead, it becomes a valuable signal. It turns into a wake-up call from your inner self telling you that, hey, maybe a boundary was crossed or a really important need isn't being met. I absolutely love this reframe from Marshall Rosenberg's work. It's about consciously shifting from I'm angry because they did this to I'm angry because I am needing. Do you see that shift? It moves you from a place of blame to a place of personal power and understanding. So it really all boils down to this simple formula. By first becoming aware of what's going on inside, your thoughts, your feelings, those body sensations, and then choosing a mindful action, you create real, lasting change in your life. So let me just leave you with this one question. The next time you feel that heat of anger start to rise, see if you can just pause for one single second and get curious instead of furious. Ask yourself, what important message is this feeling trying to deliver? The answer just might change everything for you.